is about third density. This movement of intent is about fourth density, moving to higher consciousness, a will and a desire to achieve more, to be more, to experience more, to expand ourselves beyond what we are right now. And that is going to happen. It is in fact happening. And it doesn't matter whether people are in denial or not. They will eventually come around. As I have said in the past, all the broken pieces eventually find their way home. And that's going to occur. But for right now, for those of us who are here on the planet, we are at the forefront. We're the point of the spear here on Earth to make this happen, this small percentage of us. We're the point of the spear. We are the trailblazers, the pioneers, the Minutemen. Okay, we're moving through this, and we're going to make this happen. There is no stopping this movement, and you know, where one falls, someone else needs to pick up the slack. Okay, and because this is going to move very, very quickly. Here in the next 6 months, oh my God, it is going to be absolutely amazing, the shifts. I mean, many people are going to look back and they're not going to remember 4 years ago even what it was like, because there's so much change. But the change is good. The change is positive. Okay, if you embrace it, it will only empower you on a spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical level. And that's what this is about. That's what this is all about. It is letting go of third density, moving into fourth, and then graduating into fifth, where we expand ourselves immeasurably. I'm going to keep hitting on this because it's important. Because I know, God, if you watch the news, you read a newspaper, you talk to people who are L7, which is, you know, L7 square, you know, they're squares. You can get very depressed very quickly. Believe me, I know. I deal with this. It's just, wow. You wonder how they make it out of the house. They're so out of touch with what's going on. But you know what? All you can do is have compassion for them, and you send them love in whichever way you can. You wish them well, and you hope that eventually they'll come around. And, you know, I mean, I have seen it happen in my life, where people who have made huge leaps and bounds as to what's going on, and now can very clearly see what is happening on the planet on multiple levels. And it's a good thing, especially with family. I was having a conversation with a dear friend, and I shared an experience that I had, and it was the only time that I haven't shared this experience. And after sharing it, this friend of mine, this dear friend of mine, said, you know, you need to share this with people. And for those of you who have been following the information, I shared my angel story in the last webinar. For those of you who have followed the information, you know that there was a period of about 3 months where I was with the A's on one of their starships, motherships. And using time travel, I was actually only gone 18 minutes here on Earth. It's remarkable, to say the least. But I'm going to share this experience with you because I'm putting together a presentation, which I hope to do here very soon, about their culture and who they are, who I believe them to be. But I have to admit right up front, I don't know everything. But I've talked about how they have these huge, their motherships are 800 square miles round. And on each level, they have these huge park areas in the middle, 20 by 20 square miles. And then the housing is built up around the outside of the parks. And the children are taught in teaching circles in the park area, okay, outdoors. And they're, of course, all telepathic. Well, it was very, very quiet. I come from Earth, where there's an abundance of noise. And here I am on the starship, and everybody is talking telepathically. And I was a fish in a fishbowl. If you can even for a moment imagine what that was like. I clearly stood out. I clearly was the only one of my kind there that I'm aware of, at least on the level that I stayed at. And many things occurred. Well, at one point I went back to my quarters because it was just so quiet, and I had been missing the Earth. And I didn't know exactly how long I had been there, because one of their days is equivalent to 33 of ours. So I slept a lot. In their opinion, I slept a lot. But I mean, I was just on our cycle, okay? And I went back to my bunk, to my quarters, and I had my backpack, and I pulled out my cassette player. And in it, I had a cassette that I had recently bought at a music store, a used music store in Santa Monica, California. And it was a Jerry Rafferty CD. That's what I had in the cassette player. And I had it in my backpack because I would take it hiking into the Malibu Mountains. And I went to get it, and I had it in my hand, and I was looking for Mornay because I wanted to ask him, hey, is there any way to make this thing work here? Because none of our technology works in fifth density. And even though I had the belt on, you know, to keep my field together so that I could manipulate physicality in their dimension, it didn't do anything for the technology. So I explained to him what it was that I wanted, and he asked me if he could take it, which he did. I gave it to him. And then he handed it to someone else who took off with it. So I said, well, what's happening? And he said, it'll be okay, he'll be back. I don't know exactly how much time passed because I never really could get a handle on time up there because they don't live in time like we do. But at some point he came back with what appeared to be a piece of plexiglass. It was about 3 inches by 3 inches, and it was just like a piece of plexiglass. It's the only thing I can associate it with here. It wasn't, he couldn't explain the materials that it was made of because we don't have them here, but that's the best analogy I can give you. And he was holding it, and when he held it, it lit up. And what's interesting is that the teaching circle was right over here where the kids were. They couldn't have been more than 20, 25 yards from me. And the children all turned when Mornay took this device from his friend. He held it in his hand, and it lit up from the inside. Now, there's no strings, there's no nothing. There were no buttons on it at all. And the children looked. So now I'm like, okay. So he walks over to me, and he goes, why don't you share the music with the children? And I go, what music? So he hands me the glass, and as soon as I put my hands on it, I could hear the music. Now, there weren't any buttons on it. It would play from one, it would start from beginning to end. So now my mind's reeling, well, how did they take a cassette? How did they take what was on there and put it on this, whatever this is? So I'm like, okay, I'll do this. But you know, meanwhile, I'm holding it. The children can hear the music. They could also apparently hear my conversation with Marnay as this was occurring. So he takes the thing from my hand, he's holding it now, and he says something to the children and then to the instructor. And the instructor nods, they have a conversation, and the children look at the instructor, then they look at Mornay, and he's talking to them telepathically, and they're, yes, you know, they're smiling, their physical posture opened up. They became more open. And then he handed it back to me and he said, they would like to share it with you. And I said to him, well, what am I supposed to do? He said, just share it with them and see which particular tone that they appreciate more. He said, they will not like all of it. I'm like, okay. So I'm holding it and I'm standing there, and he says, why don't you move a little bit closer? So I moved a little bit closer to the children, and he's standing right next to me, and they're listening to the music. And the first song they didn't like, the second song they really liked. They seemed to glow. They were smiling. And the second song on the cassette was Good Intentions. I believe that the CD was called Sleepwalking. God, I haven't thought about this in so long. So they liked the second song. They didn't care for the rest, but the song they liked the most was the second one, and the name of the song again was Good Intentions. So we play through it. We go back to the first song, then we go to the second song, and I open it up in my hand, and it stops playing. The device stops playing. And Mornay said, well, why'd you do that? I said, well, because I don't know how to play it over and over again. He goes, well, that's not important. What's important is that you share it with them. And he goes, why don't you show them what your planet does to express joy with sound? So I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. So he gave me a picture in my head of people dancing. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Because folks, I'm really not a good dancer. I'm more of a swisher. You know, I do more of a little swishing. So, but he kept encouraging me to do this. And I'm like, okay, they're never going to let them watch American Bandstand. And they're never going to let them watch Soul Train. So I really have nothing to lose here. So that's what I did. I closed my hand on the device, and that's what I did, is I shuffled as we were listening to Good Intentions, okay? And some of the other children, they all were smiling, and you know, and I know they were all smarter than me already, and I don't necessarily want to know how much of an idiot I look like to them. I didn't want to know, but they were smiling, and it was really the first time that they had actually really smiled. So that's what I did, is I was swishing, you know, just moving back and forth with the music. When it was over with, he took the device and he told me that the cassette player and everything was in my quarters. Later on, at another time, it may have been a few days, it could have been a week. I honestly can't tell you, because I could not wrap my head around time, when it was, what time of day it was, none of that. But when I would see the children, they would look at me and they would smile and they would swish. When they saw me, they would swish, okay? They would acknowledge that, you know, we had this moment. And after the first time that happened, there was another time where I was sitting in the park and I was trying to play with this thing that they had called a squirrel, where it looked like a squirrel, but it wasn't a squirrel. And I can't even describe what it was. It was friendly enough, but it was like really ugly cute, if you know what I mean. It was so ugly, but it was cute, you know? So I'm trying to play with them. And the children, there was another learning circle. Well, I don't know exactly what it was that they were talking about, but several of the children began to levitate, and they were moving around the circle. So they were standing, and they were very focused on whatever the lesson was, but they were hovering up above the ground, and they were moving very slowly around the circle. And I looked at this and I'm thinking, God, they're all Superman, you know, Supermen, even though there was male and females. Shortly after that, and none of the kids were paying me any mind, okay? They were really focused on what was going on with their instructor. But afterwards, when it broke up, several of the children walked past me. Two of the children did the little shuffle that we had experienced before, and one looked at me, and he was the only child that spoke to me the entire time that I was there. And he looked at me and he smiled and he goes, "Who's Superman?" So, you know, and I'm like, oh, damn, I really got to watch what I think, because they're picking up everything, you know. And I wanted to share that experience with you because it tells you something about them, and it shows how there are commonalities, regardless of the dimension, regardless of the experience, regardless of the level of intelligence or spiritual evolvement. There are bridges. There are always bridges in which to communicate, in which to connect, to acknowledge each other. And we can never, ever lose sight of that, because it seems like we lose sight of that here on Earth all the time. You know, one group less like an asshole, and then we're like, okay, you know, we're done. We want nothing to do with you. Well, they're never going to stop being assholes. Okay, we have to constantly try to engage, if it's at all possible, and to find that common ground where there is the mutual respect. At least I hope that that's possible with our own race, okay? But it was awesome, and I had shared that experience, and you know, and I wrote a letter to Jerry Rafferty's fan club years and years ago, stating that his music had reached another group of people he could never imagine. I don't know if he ever got it. I don't know if the letter actually even made it there. You know, I'll never know. But I just want you to know that that his music was being played in an Andromedan mothership. Okay, and if he's somewhere and he can hear this, you know, dude, you rock. Jerry Rafferty, you rock. It may not seem like it, ladies and gentlemen, but we're very, very blessed. We are very, very blessed to be where we are, who we are, and we as a race are going to bring and contribute so much to the intergalactic family. You have to know that. You just absolutely have to know that our experience here on Earth, in the trenches, lifetime after lifetime, is not for naught. Okay, we have a lot of experience, and we will be able to share not only the experience, but our ability to forgive, to experience compassion. We're unique in this experience. We truly, truly are, which makes all of us unique in this experience. Anyway, guys, I know we got off to a late start, and we have maybe 20 minutes. If they don't run me out of here, I'll keep going. But maybe we can start doing some questions, JP. You know, we're all off our game here because we had such technical difficulties, but we're doing our best here, folks. And okay.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Okay, well, I can't hear anybody.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the thing, okay, that's here. And I have one that says, what will happen to the star seeds at the moment of transition? I genuinely do not know. I would assume that all of us would be pretty much in the same place. That I wouldn't necessarily use the word starseed, but that's what's. We're all in the same boat. We need to hear that because we get something in the dark. Okay. The future will be very interesting for you in New York soon, I take it. Yes, apparently NYPD wants to arrest Hillary Clinton today. They do, and I want you to research it. Hillary Clinton, NYPD. Who's the guy? Anthony Weiner laptop. Folks, it will blow you away. It will
Alex,
absolutely blow you away what has been going on, okay, and why they want her. It's pretty amazing. They're pretty open about talking about it. So,
Alex, you can't hear me.
So,
you can't hear the speakers, can you?
I mean, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can somebody nod yes? Can you hear me? A thumbs up?
Yes.
Anything?
Can you hear me? Big thumbs. No,
okay, I got a thumbs up.
Yeah, cool. We can hear you. You can't hear us.
What are the bright white orbs about the size of a baseball? They have come into my home. My understanding is it's spirit. It is spirit. It could be family and friends. It could be those who have passed before you. Remember the frequency. We are rising our frequency. We're moving into fourth, and then eventually we'll be passing forth into fifth. Okay. So it could be those. It could be family. It could be spirit guides. It could be nature spirits. It could just about be anyone. But I have yet to experience or know anyone who has had a negative experience from the orbs. Okay. Please, if you heard about the AI effort to use 5D tech networks to affect our connection to planet Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that there's a lot of talk about AI here on the planet and concerns. If AI is ever actually allowed to occur here in third density, it will be controlled by extraterrestrials, probably regressive, but I don't think they're going to be here long enough to even get it done. Yeah, I'm at the moment, I'm not really overly concerned about that because that can be dealt with. That is not on my radar of things to be afraid of at the moment. I mean, if there was anything that is at the top of my to be concerned about, it is Nibiru. I'll just tell you straight away, it's Nibiru. Will we have 3 days of darkness with the passing? It is very probable, because what happens is as it crosses over, I am told, the Earth stops spinning on its axis. It will be stationary for at least 3 days before it begins to spin itself again. To me, that's the only way that could happen. Okay? Or the debris field, the dust, is so intense that it literally blocks out the sun for a period of 3 days or more. It's one or the other, or maybe it's both. Okay? On the 31st, the world